All right, so in this video, let's try to clean up some data using Google Colab, Google Sheets data, and fuzzy pandas. So in here, I have some names. So let me show you what the problem is with the current setup we have. So we have this data with different salespeople. So if I try to generate a report out of this, so let me make a quick pivot table out of this. And in rows, I'm going to put those salespeople. And in values, we'll just count the number of sales. So if you look here, we want to get a report that tells us how many sales each person made, but our data is not clean. So for example, here we see we have multiple ways that Amy Wood appears in our data. And then the same type of thing happens across the board here. See, there's some misspellings. In some cases, there are some commas. See different spellings here. Sometimes there's a middle initial here in the middle. Sometimes there is Mr. And see, in this case, there's no Mr. In here, we have a Mr. So all of this type of different sort of spellings and variations for these different names. And here it says Woods first and then the name. And there's probably that same person see here. So what we're trying to do first before getting to this is to normalize this data so that we have only one variation per name. And then after that, we want to be able to do this report. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this. So let's go ahead and try to connect to this spreadsheet from Google Colab. So let's first of all, as usual, get some Google Sheets import script. We're going to go ahead and run this installation. I'm going to close this. Now this is where we're going to connect to our spreadsheet. So let's separate this into multiple blocks here. So one is going to be our import. So I'm going to move this pandas import someplace up here and cut the rest out of here and move it in the bottom. Let's go ahead and run this import. So that prompts us to get access to our Google Drive data. Let's go ahead and do that. Copy the code, go back and paste, hit enter. Again, all of this I've done in the previous videos. If you want more understanding what's actually happening here, go ahead and watch those first. So let's cut this part and move it below. This will be our workbook, and I'm going to get rid of this. We're going to open by key. Let's go get the spreadsheet ID here. That's that. Let's run this. Seems okay so far. Now let's try to now read the worksheet. This one that's called data. So we'll take this WB and then open that worksheet that's called data. I think it was lowercase. Yep. Save it in a variable here. And then we'll just read that data. We don't need to print this. And then we're going to convert it to a data frame. And for that, we're going to pass the data minus the first row and columns, which will be basically the first row. Again, all of this with more explanation. If you don't understand this, watch those videos. So let's just run this and confirm that this actually works. I'm going to try to print this df data, and hopefully that should be that data coming from here. So we're trying to work with these names right now. So let me just get that column. It's called sales rep with an underscore. There's apparently about 20,000 lines of data in this worksheet. Yep, that's correct. So first I want to get a nice clean list out of here with no duplicates. Basically, I just want to remove all the duplicates to get a nice list that we need to normalize. So let's just save this in a series. That's basically our column. And on that series, we should have some methods to probably remove duplicates. See, drop duplicates. And we have some parameters here. See, there's in place false. So basically, do we want to save it in a new variable or do we want to just override the existing one? And then by default, it's going to keep the first variation, which doesn't really matter for us. So let's just go ahead and save this in a new variable. I'm going to run this. Let's try to see what's inside of this now. Okay, so here we go. Now, see how some are removed? Like if I look here, after 57, it jumps to 88. So that's because we're removing some of the duplicates. Now I'm curious how many we have here after this whole thing is cleaned up. We should have something like count on this as a method. So if I run this, see there's 45 after we do all of this. Now we don't want to do the count. I just wanted to see what's happening here. So we have 45 unique options. Now what I'm going to try to do here, I'm going to try to join this column basically to itself using fuzzy pandas library. So let's first of all install it. I'll put the code here on top, exclamation sign and our pip install. So it says you must restart in order to use. Okay, so we may have to rerun this, restart this. So let's go ahead and rerun these things because it was restarted. It should keep the permissions from the previous one. So there it is. Now I have this and my fuzzy pandas library is installed. So let's go ahead and import that right below this imports. We don't need pandas, just this. Pandas is already in there, right here. Okay, with that import, now we should be able to do this matching. Let's copy that sample code, go back in here and paste it below this whole thing. Let me clear this. So I want to basically join this data frames. Now, if you just look here, this thing doesn't have a column name. So let's convert that to a data frame. So we're going to do toFrame. Let's just run this to see what it looks like. See, now it's a data frame and it has a column name. That's what we want. Now we need to save this in a variable. Now let's look into this to make sure this is actually accurate. Okay, that looks good. So now let's try to do this merge. So I'm going to do this fuzzy merge and we're going to have two data frames, which is really going to be this one. Well, while I have this name, let me just paste it in here. And then I'm going to copy this data frame and it's going to be my left and right data frames. For both of them, I'm going to use the same one. It's the same column. We're joining it on. Ignore case. I guess we're going to keep matching only. Let's run this and see what happens. Now we want to see our matches. Well, this is what we get when we do regular fuzzy merge. We basically just get exact matches. Now, if we want non-exact matches, we have to change the method. And that's where we get to this. See, method, we can use some of these other methods. I'm going to change it to this one. And we also need some sort of threshold. By default, that's 0.6. I'm going to change that to 0.9 for now. Let's try this again. So now you can see we get more results. See, there's this one. There's also this one for perennial. And then we have Jerry Jefferson. We have the second option, third option, and so on. So I want to see more results here. So let's just do something like head 50. Let's see what this looks like. So for this misspellings, so far we're doing really well. I'm concerned about, see, this is pretty good too, like with a comma. Let's take a look at these. Well, that's the match when it's exact match. Let's see. So there are quite a few matches that are not here. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little more loose match. So instead of 0.9, we will do maybe 0.8. Let's see what it looks like now. So that's a little better, but for example, like this Amy Wood, that didn't catch this one. Now, one thing we can do, this Fuzzy Pandas is actually built for names specifically, probably like English names generally, but see, ignore case, so by default, it's false. Default is case sensitive. Now, I think we already have that in our options. See, ignore case true. But we should also have some other good options here. For example, ignore titles or ignore this non-alphanumeric characters. So I want to use those. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to do ignore that and titles as well. So that will be like Mr., Miss, etc. That should get us closer to what we need. So a couple of more options. Let's run this again and take a look. So see, now that's much better here. So that actually looks pretty good. So let's see if we can do something like a left join. See, join type. So let's do left outer join so that we get all the options from one of the tables so that we can see what we didn't match. So we're going to do join option here. And I believe that was the syntax. Let's try this again. I'm not sure if this worked. Let's look at the tail instead of the head because this gives us the first 50. Well, it seems like we were able to match all of them. I guess that makes sense because it's the same thing we're matching with the same table, so there's always going to be at least one match. So this is kind of redundant here. But the other thing I want to do here is to also make sure that, remember sometimes we had the last name first, the first name second. Let me change this to head. And there is an option for that too, I believe here. See, it says ignore ordered words. So let's do that. So that should help us with first and last names being in different order. Let's take a look. See, this is a great example here because they're in different order. So that looks pretty decent for now. Let's try to just give these two columns different names instead of both of them being called sales rep. Let's see if there's an option in here. If there isn't, we'll just do something else. I can't see anything here, so we'll just take care of that ourselves. So let's just take this And this should have columns. So right now, if I look at the columns, see, basically it's the same column named twice. So what we're going to do, we'll just reassign our own column names. We'll just call it sales rep L for left, and this will be R for right. So now if I just reopen that matches data frame that was created for us, see, we have different column names for these. So at this point, what I'm going to try to do is remove duplicates from this right column. So we're going to do drop duplicates on this data frame. Now here, see, it says consider certain column names is optional. So we don't want to just remove the duplicates when both of them are duplicates. We just want to remove duplicates if the right column has a duplicate. And it's going to keep by default the first one that's not a duplicate. That we're not going to change. But we do want to provide this column label that apparently is called subset. From what I can tell, we just have to do this to remove those. Now, right now it says see 109 rows. Let's try to run this and see how many we get. So see, now we got 71. So that did work. We removed all our duplicates based on the right column. This one is going to be what it is. So I can already see one problem in here. For this perineal, see, there's this peri-n that we didn't find here on top. So I'm going to try to make this a little more loose to see if we can catch that too. So 0.7. Doesn't look that way. Let's try 0.6. So at some point, it's going to start matching wrong things. So we have to be careful here. So see, I was able to get to peri-n, but now let's see if we're also matching some weird stuff here. Well, I think that actually looks pretty decent. There's one thing I'm going to do here. I'm going to go back to this for a second. And this second column here, let me just change this column naming. I'm going to call this first column clean name. And the second column matching name. So that's that. Then we're going to drop duplicates out of this. Well, now we have to use this matching name as the second column. There it is. So let me save this in a data frame. So now I'm going to use this mapping table to basically join the clean names to our original data frame. So the original data frame we have is this df data. So if we look inside of that, this is what we have. We have all these names here. Now I want to basically just add that column of clean name using that matching name to match these names as another column to the right. So this is where we're going to do a merge. So I'm going to do PD, Panda, basically merge. And I'm going to use that df data. And I'm going to merge it with this mapping table. The type of join I'm going to do is left because I want to make sure I get all the records from this df data table. And then I need to choose which columns we're joining these tables on. So I'm going to do left on and right on. So the left table is this table. So the column is sales rep. And the right on is going to be that matching name column. So let's just run this to see what it looks like. Let's just close this panel on the left. So see, we have the clean name and this is the matching name. So let's try to just add some more data so we can check what's going on here. First, let's just save this in a variable. And then let's look inside of that. So for example, if you look here, see this doctor here, over here, it was replaced with this in our clean name column. Now to see how clean this actually is, what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna take this clean name column out of here and remove the duplicates from this column to see if I still get any duplicate names in that list. So let's just take that and do that clean name column. So that should just get us that column. And now let's just drop duplicates from this. And if you look here, we got 23 results here. So let's see if any of these seem to be the same person twice. Hard to say, but I don't think so. This didn't change the actual data frame because we didn't save it in a variable. If I look at this, it's still going to be the whole thing. Let's just now drop this new table with, again, 20,000 rows, but now we have this clean name column in here. So let's just write this back to our Google Sheets and try to create a pivot table and see how well we did. So let's create a worksheet for this new data. So let's just read that worksheet to a variable, and then we should be able to now write to that worksheet using this data. Now we need that data to be a list of lists. So let me just do that right in this line. I have explained this line many times already. I'm not going to go over this again. Just watch previous videos for more clarity on this. But this should be now our list of lists. So let's just write it to our spreadsheet. So something is wrong here. I'm going to have to go check what I did. Oh, I forgot to convert this to a list. Let's go take a look. This is our new data. Let's just give this headers some formatting. So now I'm going to try to use this clean name to make a pivot table out of this. So as you can see, it's already looking much better than the previous one. We just want to see if we missed anything. I don't think we did. It looks actually pretty good. Let's just add the old column below to see what we cleaned up. So see here on cases when we had multiple options like these, it shows up here. So see, this was misspelled here. And then these are different options for this. This is a couple of options for that. That looks excellent. So if you had some other things here to clean up, you would go back and clean up at this point. Sometimes you may have to do some manual cleanup just because it's impossible with this fuzzy matching to get to the right thing. But in this case, that was actually excellent. We got our results. So we took our data, we got it all cleaned up, and we got this new clean name column. Now we can make a nice report out of it. And next time, if we have similar data, we should be able to just grab this same script and rerun it. And it should just work without having to write the whole thing again. And that should do it for this video. Thanks for watching. please subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video.